Welcome again, back with another one. This is episode number 9. And then previous episode, which is episode number 8, the other day, I promised you guys that whenever we meet up in the new episode, I'm gonna show you how to create an application that generates unique random numbers. But I've realized something that before we can actually get to that, there is something very crucial that we need to introduce. I need to introduce to you guys an array and also introduce to you guys control structures, your iteration control structures and your selection control structures. So, but today let's focus on what we call an array. So now, the last time whenever we spoke about a variable, I've introduced you to the concept of classifying a variable as a basic data structure. So today I'm also going to introduce you guys to another basic data structure that is called an array. So what is an array? As I mentioned, that a variable is a container that is used to store data of a specific type. An array, it's when you open up a bus and that bus in memory is going to store data that has got related data type. So what's happening is that it's a basic data structure that stores data that is related in its type. So in here, if I want to store numbers, this is going to be my array, which is going to store numbers. So an array has got something that is very interesting. An array has got what we call a subscript. So here there is subscript number 0. This is subscript number 1, and that is subscript number 2, and this is subscript number 3, and that is subscript number 4. So whenever you go through an array, you access it using its indexes. So that we usually call it indexes, but the other name for it's what we call a subscript. So this is what you're basically doing. So you want to store numbers. Maybe you're going to store the number 8. Yeah, you can store the number 10. Yeah, you can store the number 15. Yeah, you can store the number 18. And here you can store the number 20. That's for interest's sake. So now I'm going to go and show you how you can then do this whenever you are working with a program. So I'm going to first do a most difficult way of using an array. And in the next lesson, I'm then going to introduce you to an iteration control structure, which is called a for loop. And a for loop is the one that you're going to use in order for you to access all the data that is stored inside an array, which is for you to store inside an array and also access the data for you to be able to display the the data or manipulate the data that is inside. So now I'm going to create the new application and then I'm going to call it array example. That should be sufficient to describe what is actually happening. So I'm just going to give you simple basics, but let's take it from the basics. For those who do not know Java programming and are new to Java programming. So for me to do exactly the same thing that is that side, which is this, an array of size 5 that is going to store the number 8, 10, 15, 18, and 20. I will then have to come. So you first have to identify the data type that you are storing inside here. And in one of the previous episodes, I've explained that there is different data types, which is your int, which is your string for your words, and there's a char for your characters, and there's a boolean for your true or false, and there is a float, and your double for your float and double for your decimal numbers. And there is also another one which is called a long, which is a big integer number. That is the one that we use for, especially for, let's say, rational numbers. In that case, if it makes sense the way I've mentioned it. All right, so now basically what is going to happen is that an array, you need to classify it based on those data types. So now in this case, I want to do an array that is going to store an int data type. So declaration. So in this case, you need to specify your data type. So to show that it's an array, you need to use the square brackets. So the very same way we used to declare variables, I'm also going to declare an array like this. So you specify what does it store, its numbers. Check something that is very important is that I'm naming it as a plural in plural form, because it's not only going to store one number, it's going to store more than one number, which is multiple related numbers, which with a data type of an int. And then now, and then I need to say new, and then you have to say int the data type again, and then in here I need to specify the size, so which is size 5 on this side. If you checked, so this is going to open up an array of size 5. So what it's going to do in memory location is that it's going to get there and open a space or a memory bus that is going to open 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then this is going to be empty. So now it's just going to open it, it's going to be empty. So now after declaration, we need to initialize. So to initialize, the way you do it is that you write the name of the array, which is numbers. Next to it, you put the square brackets and you write the subscript that you want to initialize. So the first value that we need to initialize is the value which is 8, 10, 15, 18, and 20. The first value is 8. So numbers. So remember, I've spoken to you about subscripts. So now subscripts, they always start from 0. You do not put a 1 here. Even if it's we know that is the first element, subscripts, they always start from 0. So in order for you to access the first element or store into the first element, you need to use subscript number 0. So this is a 10. Numbers. I think I have a, oh, this is supposed to, oh, 1, that's a 10. Number 2, this is supposed to be a 15. Numbers, this is subscript number 3, which is value number 4. I think I have a 15, I have a 18 and a 20. This is a 18. Numbers, and subscript number 4, that should be a 20. And then now this is going to store and populate that empty array, which is this one. It's going to populate it with these values, which is your 8, your 10, your 15, your 18, and your 20. So now for me to display, I'm going to take it the long route. So in the next session, I'm going to first introduce you to what is we call a for loop. And I'm just going to display this using a for loop. But since now we do not have any knowledge about for loops, I'm going to display them the long route. So for you to access them, the very same way you've stored them, you access them via the very same indexes. So now I'm going to say display the first value. And then here I'm going to display the second value, which is going to be in subscript number 1. Okay, system.out.println. Then I'm going to say numbers in subscript number 2, system.out.println, numbers, subscript number 3, numbers, subscript number 4. So that is what is going to happen now. This is how you declare and initialize it to empty array. This here is not really initializing. Here we are populating. Excuse me. We are populating, meaning that we are storing values inside the array. Then in here, we are just displaying. So I can even still do this. I can even still update. So I can say numbers, change the value which is stored in number 1, change it from an 8, make it a 21. So if I run this, it should be able to say 21, 10, 15, 18, and 20. All right. Let's come back here. Let's do this. There we go. So it's 8, 21, 15, 18, and 20. So, oh, I've changed at 1. So I didn't change the first value. So in order for me to change the first value here, it was actually supposed to be an 8. So this time around, it's no longer going to change a 10. It's going to change the 8. So, I mean, yeah. So now it is supposed to be 8, but let's first clean and build here. There's something running in my background. Hence, I need to clean everything. So yeah, see now it says 21, it says 10, it says 15, it says 18. Why? Because we have updated the values before we displayed them. So this is how you basically get to deal with your arrays, and this is just the basics of how you use your arrays in order for you to store inside the array and also to display an array. But when we get to the next session, I will need to first introduce you to your iteration control structures, which is your for loop, your while loop, and your do while loop. Then I'm going to then introduce you to how you can use that in order for you to display this using a for loop. You can also use this in order for you to input. So in the next session, we are going to input into the array, and then we're going to display using an iteration control structure. So remember to like, share, and subscribe, and give us a comment below. Remember that your comments, they help us in order for us to grow. And this is a new channel, and we are taking your comments very seriously, and we're going to use them to give us ideas on what you want us to do, any programs that you have been struggling with, and we're going to do them, and we're going to post them on the channel. But that is it from me for now. Until the next one, till we meet. Cheers.